Join our challenges. The signal path.
All right. Hi, guys. Welcome to the TSP Podcast. And today's guest with me is
John Schick. I'm from Northern Indiana.
Northern Indiana. All right. And John is with Staging a Podcast and You Do You Podcast. And also a great guy all around. Glad to have you today, John.
Hey, thanks for having me. I had you last week and, you're returning the favor now. So that's nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was actually a lot of fun that we needed to make a second hour of it.
Yeah, people are going to be tired of us by the time it's over.
Oh, yeah. They're like, these guys are really full of like the laughs and Letterkenny, I guess.
Oh, just any pop culture, really.
Yeah, dude. Like you know me, I share a lot. I'm a pretty transparent guy. I mean, my name is Tone after all, so.
Even the perfect person to host a signal path.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say the perfect person. I have my flaws and mistakes, but it's all a growing and learning process. And basically, how we met is met John through mutual friends with the Just Surprise Me podcast, and he became a Patreon with my friends on there, and we've learned and grown a little bit over the last couple of months. Great guy all around. Has a very eclectic taste of music, I must say.
Oh yeah, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's what we were learning about each other. Is kind of like all of our origin stories, but I don't think we're that far off from everybody. I mean, we kind of grew up with a lot of the same influences and that kind of thing. I guess the nickname Razor applies to your last name, being Schick. Yeah.
Yeah. See, my whole name is just bathroom implements.
Oh.
You got John the toilet, Schick the razor. So yeah, toilet razor. Yep, that's me.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to have some potty humor there, I guess. But
yeah.
But as you know, on the signal path, we show the warts and all. It's really about the content generation, and we have fun with effects and gear. And today, I think that's what we're going to talk mostly about is our gear and stuff. So you've actually shared your Pedalboard on the group, and you're also a fellow Terraform user.
Yep.
Which, I'm not afraid of that pedal, but that pedal is like a Swiss Army knife, man.
Yeah, it's got so many functions and things like that, and I've got the timeline from Strymon, where you've got, of course, the timeline's all just delay, but
yeah,
it's still got so many functions, and like you can almost take a lifetime to learn how to use it completely.
Yeah, it would probably take. Yeah, it would take your entire timeline to figure it out, right?
Right.
But
it takes a lot of work. I'm sure the guys over at Wampler had to do a lot, especially because that's their first digital pedal. Everything else has been analog before that.
It's still analog brain, but I really like the terms when they use and when they actually implemented the analog drive-through. Is when you can actually blend in those signals where it's actually an actual digital signal and put the clean back into the digital signal, so it actually gives it a bump up. But we have really got some really good. Excuse my nephew there. We have some great advancements in digital technology that. Really saving presets is what I'm really getting down to, because like things like even jam pedals have an analog brain, but now they have a digital body to them, so they can actually organize all those effects. I mean, when stuff gets handmade, people like the handmade, but they want reliability and they want functionality, and that's what I really enjoy. But we really want to get down to the bottom of your rig, so. You got any new pedals on your platform or anything that you're kind of jonesing for?
Anything new that I've got? See, I think the most recent thing that I picked up is the Slice of Pie, and that's been a couple months ago. I do like my fuzzes. I'm not as deep into it as some people, even some of our friends. I probably got a good 10 fuzz pedals, but
Oh wow.
see, I haven't really been looking at anything, but I did hear that somebody might have told me that the Helix has the functions from the old Digitech space station, and I've got I had the space station and the whammy wah back in the early 2000s, and
Wow.
they both ended up dying on me, and I don't know where to send them to get fixed. So,
Are they well, I'm trying to think if they're what you call the I'm slipping my mind, the surface mount board,
oh yeah, I don't know about the board. I just know that because they've got the treadle like a wah, both of them do,
Yeah.
and those are both LED based, and then there's the up and down function buttons on it that
Yeah.
are just like all the old late 90s, early 2000s Digitech stomp stuff. So
Yeah.
just being able to find something where I can do all those synth sounds, like spaceship, alien sounds. I want to say
Yeah.
one was like a laser gun.
Yeah, the RP21D that I shared last week, that we were really trying to get the buttons replaced on it. It was really challenging to find even the old spare parts for it, because I reached out to a couple of vendors that specialize in Digitech parts, and that's how I was able to actually find the buttons. But even like delicate parts and stuff, like Boss probably still makes the best enclosure to this day, just because they really looked at the form, looked at the function, looked at reliability, and I hate to say it, but you could toss a Boss pedal in the lake, and I'm sure it'll still work. Like,
Oh, probably.
yeah, but
I do like let me look around here. What do I have? I don't have very much for Boss stuff, man. I've got a flanger, a couple tuners. Oh, the DD6 delay, or I think actually no, that's the DD7 delay. That one's awesome. And then I use Boss as my loopers.
yeah.
I've
So
just
is it
got
the
oh, sorry.
RC1 or the RC20? Like, which ones do you have?
I've got the RC20 right now.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'd like to move up. I think it's the RC. What is it? 300 or something is the one with the 6 button.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to move up to something a little more larger, because there's only so much I can do here. Where that one, you can, if you say do a drum track and then you can start and stop it. Where this one here, you'd almost have to delete that part and then have to do it over. It's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, we had just got the revamped RE20 into the RE2. That whole Echo platform.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the Space Echo.
Yeah, so that form factor with the 20 series, as I call it, it was just, I think it was such a large footprint that everybody was just kind of rejected. And honestly, when I saw that RE2, the smaller platform, I think that was based off of redoing items like the looper and everything when they went back to that single form factor. But getting all them tiny parts into a SMD board, that's very intricate. But I think what they've done now is doubled the PCB on the inside for that looper, like for the single form, and it's actually 2 boards, along with the switchboard and the actual functionality of it. But that's a lot of stuff in that little box, man, just for a looper pedal, and then just kind of popping them open. I mean, I got kind of like the analog effects where you actually see all the components on the inside.
That's cool.
Yeah, this is actually a transparent overdrive. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's hilarious. Yep. And it looks like there's no board in there. They just wired piece part to part.
Yeah, that's actually a copper for ground all the way through. And everybody's like, I bet that's a big antenna. And I'm like, it's only an antenna if I stick my iPhone on top of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's plastic pedals out there like the old Dano food series.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh yeah, I've got the tremolo right over here.
Oh, was it the tuna salad? I guess the yellow one.
Yeah, the yellow one.
Yeah, and it makes a really good sound for what for what it does and everything. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's a one-trick pony," but if it does that one trick really good, why hate on it?
Right.
Yeah, I really like the Dano Food series. One of my favorite Dan Electro pedals is really that Dan Echo, the purple one, and it was in that large enclosure, and it was just it was a bit unconventional for a lot of people, but I really like the sounds of it. And they're like, "But it's too digital." I was like, I kind of get that, but you have the high and dry filter on it, and you can kind of dial it what you need in. And all I'm getting down to, if you know how to use that tool, use it. Like that's kind of the thing. I mean, a lot of people hate on digital effects, but my first pedal was this guy.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had to have
505 if anyone's listening.
Yeah, and I had the ones with the 6 double A's, but I finally got a brand new one. And I'm gonna say this is literally a brand new because the store forgot about having this in the box. And I'm like, I got to buy it. It's literally a brand new like 1990 something error 505 that was left in the box sitting in the store, and it was just buried under all the age old inventory. Yeah. I was like, how much do y'all want for that? And he was like, just give me $20 for it. I was like, no way, shut up. Like, here's $20.
That's
like,
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, I still have my original. That one's upstairs in a closet, but it stopped working. So
yeah.
I just recently bought another 505 from Reverb.com, and that was I paid $45 for it.
That's not bad. That's what I paid for my other one beforehand, before this one. And I think I've gave more of these away than anything, especially for other beginner players. When I was in my 20s, I'm like, if you really want kind of everything in one box, and you don't know what effects does what, get like a multi effects. And they're like, what do you mean by multi effects? So I would show them my Zoom, and they're like, oh, I really like this. I'm like, well, jam on it and let me know what you like. So never really got them back.
Yeah, see, and one thing that I loved about them back in the day was somebody had put up an Angel Fire page where they would put, like, you'd have a song or a band style, like, this is supposed to sound like Offspring, Pretty Fly for a White Guy. So, put this option at this option at that, put your distortion here, use this cab model, and essentially built the sounds. And there was so much stuff on there, Jimmy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all kinds of punk stuff, grunge stuff, Pink Floyd, just, it was wild. And I don't know if, I found some sites where there's a little list, but the list that I used to find back in the 90s was huge.
Yeah, I had the Digitech GSP 1101, and it had the same. It came with the book, and then the book it had like all the presets. Here's like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Here's Jimmy Page settings. Here's Jimi Hendrix settings, and it would just go down through like pretty much all your bread and butter artists that you've heard your entire life. And they were, I want to say, really close, but I was actually surprised with some of the fuzz settings because digital and fuzz doesn't even make sense,
right?
And because fuzz takes like the fewest components, and I think with multi effects they have too many ingredients in the soup for fuzz when it comes to digital. You might as well just call it a distortion. But I really enjoyed the fuzz settings on that, and on my RP21D it does the same thing. So this stuff's now becoming vintage, which is breaking my heart because this is the stuff I was playing in high school.
Right, same here.
Yeah, and had a blast with, and we had kind of the new school thing now, like to kind of get into multi effects, like just in the last 10 years. And I'm gonna show you, this is Amplitude's air pedal for the Blue Board for the iRig.
Okay.
My
so
iRig.
You just run it off your iPad?
Yeah, iPad, iPhone, and I actually bought all the Positive Grid stuff like bias amps, bias effects, the Jam Up Pro, and I had a blast just editing it. But it's really great for headphones and direct recording. It's not really great for live because I found myself not receiving a full range of EQ.
Okay.
From that platform. But if I just want to be able to plug in like these headphones and just have fun without really being loud or need something to play in the middle of the night, that's usually what I'm playing is literally on my iPhone.
Yeah. So I told you, but I haven't told everyone else. When I graduated high school, I was out of high school for a couple months, and I ended up getting hired in a guitar shop, and I worked there for 8 years.
Yeah.
We sold those Dan Electro pedals. My favorite was the Cool Cat. But then we were also a Digitech distributor or a dealer. So they started putting out the RP 100, 200, 300, and then they had like the GNX3, which I loved the GNX3, except for there was a little bit of latency when you switch from effect to effect.
Yeah.
But that thing was cool because it had a built-in drum machine and a built-in 8-track recorder. So I loved that. But then, I ended up going pretty much all analog or less modeling type things. Where I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago, I went down to Indiana Beach and there was this band playing there, and if I see a band playing, I try and look at gear. Just a gear dork. So I went and I looked, and I'm like, this guitar player doesn't have a cab. Like, where is the sound coming from? I don't even see an amp at all. So then I asked him, and he had the Amplify TT, the tabletop Amplify from Line 6, and I was like, dude, sounds are great all over the board. It was a country band. They were doing stuff from, I'd say, probably mid 80s to modern country. They weren't, digging really deep and, hitting up Jerry Reed or Beluven Brothers or anything like that. But I had to buy one because my wife works midnights. Yeah. And the sound level situation is a big deal. Like, she's up there sleeping right now, so I can't plug into the amplifiers that are sitting behind me because the bed's right over the jam room.
Yeah, so like, you remember the old headphone adapter? So that's actually a stereo out, man. And I'll tell you what, the ping pong delay on this is just unreal. Like, I didn't even realize I got spoiled on stereo effects with my first pedal, because when I plugged in other delay pedals, I'm like, oh, that's only like mono.
See, and that's funny because without going to headphones, to get true stereo, you got to run 2 amps.
Yep.
And I never did that until I got that Terraform.
Yeah.
That's when I finally was like, you know what? I want to see like how actually wide I can make this chorus sound.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I see all your stuff behind you, man. You even got the little champ that I've heard, such a great origin story for it too. And you got your Fender and your Marshall. So what all are you running in your current setup?
Okay, so I've got the 59 champ, which I love. That one doesn't get effects very much because, like, just like all the champs from that era, you take it and you turn it somewhere between 3 and 4 on the volume knob. Volume knob goes to 12. So I got one up on Nigel Tufnell. So yeah, somewhere in between 3 and 4, it's just that sweet rock blues country breakup. So I usually just plug straight into that. I've got a Blues Junior. That one's actually a pretty interesting story as well. I used to have a patient at one of the old companies that I worked at, and he had one of the Fender Greta amps. The pawn shop series.
Yeah.
It looked like a transistor radio.
Yeah, it looked like the old radio. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had one of those, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, do you use that thing a lot? I've been looking at him, and he's like, oh man, I'll sell it to you for $40. And I was like, okay. So I came in the next time I was going to pick him up, and I gave him a 50. And he's like, oh, I don't have change. And I was like, dude, don't worry about the change. Like, you were giving me a great deal anyways. Yeah. Like, don't worry about the change at all. And he's like, I'll take care of you, bud. I'll take care of you. So the next time I seen him, he's like, hey, come back here to my room with me. Points to his closet. He's like, hey, can you open up the closet and go in there? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, there's a black amp. And I'm like, this one? And he's like, yeah, that's your change.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that Blues Junior cost me $10 essentially.
That is nuts.
Then if I need to run big, like if I'm going out and doing a decent sized show, because the Blues Juniors, between that and then also there's the Marshall DSL 40.
Dude, DSLs are the stuff, man.
Yeah,
good clean signal too.
And I like it because it's got the switch on the back that you can drop it off of pentode mode into triode and drop it to 20 watts.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is really, I don't have any sound dampening in here at all. So
yeah, it don't sound bad. I mean, it's a little bit of slapback, but that's it. That's just regular room.
Yeah. Because what you can't see is next to the
the album
next to the records here is it's like a galleyway. So the room just goes all the way down to the other side of the house.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's really open. So dropping it down, even a few decibels is great. But when I'm running that Marshall, I'm running a JHS volume box in the effects loop. So that way I can turn up my gain and volume on the amp and then bring down speaker volume that way.
Wow.
And then the other amp I have is a 1972 Silverface Twin Reverb.
Yeah, the big boy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the one, like, if I end up going out and playing someplace that's going to require something bigger than the Marshall or the Blues Junior, I'll take that Twin Reverb. And it's been modified because I'm trying to think. Back then, I think they were still using Jensen speakers in the early 70s. So those ones got taken out and a set of EVHs got put in.
Oh, nice.
And the magnets on those EVHs,
yeah, they're like really wide,
huge.
like a cheese wheel, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Twin reverbs are heavy as it is.
Yeah.
But you put those huge magnets on it. I've weighed it. It's 95 pounds.
Good Lord.
So yeah, good reason to not want to haul it with me everywhere.
Yeah,
but,
so that probably helps you out with all those gurney skills, lifting all those human bodies all the time in the ambulance. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need a weight bench. I just go over there and lift that thing up.
Yeah, but yeah, man. So you said you were getting into stereo. So like, have you tried pairing the different amps to each other to kind of see, your own tone journey kind of thing? Because what I did was a contrast from really bright to really dark. And I did that with the Hot Rod Deluxe, which is a really bright amp. I mean, like, you could turn the treble down to 0 and it's still bright, like incredibly bright. And then I have the orange Tiny Terror, which is a very dark amp. And they vary in amps, like if you plug them solo to each other. But when you put them together, it's just so full because you have kind of the light and dark that goes with it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't really I just did it one or two times messing with it because I don't like when my cables are all askew. So
yeah,
it ends up looking like a haul of snakes.
Yeah.
So the one time or the couple times when I did it, all I did was the Marshall DSL and the Blues Junior.
Yeah.
And I mean, I liked it. It sounded great. I kind of wish that I still had some of my old amps, but
yeah.
We've all got those ones that have gotten away,
Yeah, man. I had a Mezza Boogie dual rectifier, and because I got mad at my bandmates and started another band, I sold it like an idiot because I was in my 20s.
See, I had a Mesa Mark IV 112.
Nice.
That thing was great. Ended up selling that. I forget why. Then another one that I loved was a Fender. I had a JCM 800. That one was cool. And then the one that really got away, because I sold both of those, but I ended up leaving an amp at a buddy's house, and it ended up disappearing.
Oh wow!
Was 1969 Fender Dual Showman.
Oh geez.
And that thing was sweet. Kind of similar to this specific twin.
Yeah.
Is with those speakers in that twin, like, you can't get any breakup at all. You can turn the the main volume up to 10 and you get no dirt. So the
Showman.
The Dual Showman, the Dual Showman was pretty much the same. Like, just a nice clean platform, perfect for pedals.
Yeah, man. I bet a Tube Screamer really rocked that. But we had Talked about amps and pedals. Let's see. So you got like go-to guitars and stuff like that you run with everything, or?
Well, I've got so many. You know, I'm one of those people. Like, I can never pick just one thing.
Yeah.
So, I still have my first electric guitar. Her name is Sally. She is a 1990s Samick Strat style that I have layered in stickers, taken the stickers off, relayered in stickers. I forget what's even. I can't see what's in her right now. I'm pretty sure that I'm back to the like the Billy Joe Armstrong tilted humbucker in the bridge with 2 singles.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just go way back so much that I just pick that guitar up and it writes its own songs. So there's that one. Let's see. Oh, so this one's a funny story. My wife ended up doing what we call now the trifecta. She drank beer, whiskey, and wine all within the same evening.
Yeah.
And got really blitzed, and she started getting angry. She went out and, like, I was like, I'll take the dog for a walk. And she's like, you don't think I could do it? And I'm like, no, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying I can. Like, I'm willing to go do this.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, I'm going to take the dog for a walk. So she went and took him for a walk, and she comes back in, and, you know, in my old apartment, the kitchen table, which was our only seating, was right by the door. So she comes in, and I'm sitting at the end of the table, and she's there. The dog sits down, and she's like, see, I told you I could do it. And I'm like, I never said you couldn't do it. Like, but at that time, I took off the dog's leash.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she keeps lambasting me for a little bit, and then reaches down to take the leash off, and she turns his collar a few times, and then she's like, oh, what, you think that's funny? And I'm like, no, I was just being nice and took the leash off. She took off her shoe, hit me in the arm, and then hit me across the face with the shoe.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, oh, good golly, you need to go to bed. So I went out and I went for a walk, you know, just let things calm down, maybe let her go to bed. I come back and she's thrown up all over the bathroom.
Oh, no.
And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to owe you so big. I'm going to owe you so big. So I, just to make a joke, I went and I took screenshots of 4 different levels of Paul Reed Smith. And I sent them to her for when she woke up in the morning. And
yeah,
she messages me. She's like, where do you even think I'm going to get $4,000 at? And I'm like, I was just making a joke. You said you owed me, you know? So I ended up with a Trampus Green Paul Reed Smith Custom 24.
Oh, nice.
And I love that thing. I'd say that's probably the one that recently I've been playing the most.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how your wife is, but mine buys me new guitars every couple years.
Yeah.
So
my wife puts up with a lot of shenanigans. I'll say that.
So I'm trying to think what else she's gotten me. Oh, the 7-string. I believe we talked about that on your episode on Staging a Podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, she got me a Schecter 7-string, so I can try and learn 7-string. And I ended up just turning it into a modified 6-string to play REM. And then there was a while there, because our Guitar Center is directly across the street from the mall.
Oh,
and,
wow. So she can do her shopping, you can do yours.
Well, the thing is we're wine club members at, there's a local winery. I don't know how far out they go. They're initially in the suburbs of Chicago, and they've kind of branched out a little bit.
Okay.
I think possibly their furthest one away is Indianapolis, but I could be wrong. Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indianapolis. Yeah.
So, anyways, we've been wine club members there for 9 years, and there will be times where, like, this is before I started using String Joy strings, where I wouldn't want to have to wait for Sweetwater to send me my strings. I'd just, hey, you know what? Let's go across the street. I got to get some strings, and she knows that means I want to look at the wall really quick too. Yeah. So she kept on over the course of like 6 months, we went there maybe 3 times. And she kept gravitating towards this Epiphone 355 with the Bigsby in Pelham Blue.
Big boy, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, after the third time, I said, you keep on getting drawn to this guitar. And she's like, it's just so pretty. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is pretty. And she's like, I was just looking at a different company, or a different seller. Do they do online matching here? And I'm like, I don't know. I think so. So I went and asked somebody, and they're like, yeah. So she had found it for like an extra $200 off at Sounds. So we ended up getting it for a good price, and she got me that. I want to say the pride of my collection, though. I do have, if you can.
You got a strap tat, yeah.
Yeah. So because Richie Valens is the one that made me want to play it. In the movie, he went and got the guitar with wings on his arm in Mexico. So I ended up getting a Strat with wings. This is actually my 2004 American Strat that's right behind us as well.
So do you play Bullet with butterfly wings now because of that too?
Oh, no, that's because of this tattoo, which is a bullet with butterfly wings.
Yeah.
But I'd say the pride of my collection, and like I would get rid of my first guitar before I get rid of this guitar, is it's my Uncle Dave's 52 Teller reissue.
Oh, nice.
So a few years ago, I was sitting out on the porch having dinner, and the phone rings, and it's my Aunt Kathy, and I'm like, hey, I have to take this call because, Aunt Kathy never calls me. This is weird.
Yeah.
So she's like, hey, Johnny, Uncle Dave wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. He had just found out he had stage 4 cancer.
Oh.
And he's like, hey, look, like, I don't have long. And, I want you to have one of my guitars. And he's like, do you want a Strat, a Les Paul, or a Tele? And he was a country player. So, like, I always remember seeing him when I was younger playing a Tele. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I definitely want the Tele because, that's going to keep,
that's the fondest
reminding
memories.
me of him. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the one that, if I had to sell everything music related, it'd be the last thing to go.
Yeah, man. That's some heartstrings right there.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, people out there, keep your head up. The world's not all a bad place.
Yeah. We have a couple more topics here. Let's see. Boutique versus standard equipment. And I think you guys have talked this before on other shows. And I know your friend Steve works at Lakeland and all that. I consider them kind of a boutique guitar company, but
partially they are and partially they aren't.
Yeah, they make a really good bass.
They do. They make great equipment. The American stuff is outstanding, but for the money, the Skyline series, which is coming from overseas, that's what he's working on, is just amazing.
Yeah.
So I love what they do, and I don't know how many places do this. Is they get their shipment in from overseas, and then they've got two dudes who take that guitar, take the neck off, they pleck it, they do a full setup, they make sure all the electronics are working right, and then they send it out to the companies. Which is funny to me because he told me that, like, how Sweetwater does their 55-point inspection.
Yeah. He's
like, yeah, I'll have this thing playing absolutely perfectly, send it out there, and they still do their 55-point. It's like,
that's crazy.
Well, the nice thing is they say they do it, they're actually doing it. Because I don't know what other companies actually do that on their low-level stuff.
I like the Court Factory in Indonesia because that's where my favorite Squiers come from. But I realize they make a lot of guitars because it's like the only plant there.
Yeah, don't quote me, but I think the Court Factory is who's doing their Skylines over there.
Oh, you got me sold there, man. Because like a lot of people hate on Squiers, but I tell you what, my favorite Squiers have been out of that factory, and they just got some attention to detail. I mean, if you need something to throw around the bus and play, that's it, man. Like it's gonna stay in tune and everything. And that's all I gotta say about that. Because
Well,
I know a lot of people are like throwing rotten tomatoes at me right now, but you know,
no, like
I spent a lot of time on these Squiers. I'm just saying, like I've had a lot of fun with them.
there's some nice stuff. I've got a Squier on my guitar boat right now. It's just a bullet Telecaster with a humbucker in the bridge, but I ended up tuning that up Nashville tuning, and it's just something to get an extra tone. But even for being a bullet, $100 guitar, it plays great. But then you move up into like what do they call them? The Classic Vibe series.
Yes, classic vibes. Yes.
Yeah, those things are even better.
Yeah, that started in the 2000s as the Squire Standard series, and then they went to classic vibes because they wanted to get the 50s and 60s paint schemes and pick guards and all the colors and pickup combinations down, and that's what really started that classic vibe. I would say a lot of them really have that 60s look too.
And the Standard series was nice, because we were a Fender dealer for a while. The whole time I was there, we were a Fender dealer. We were an Epiphone dealer.
Okay.
So I got to play plenty of Squiers because those are the ones that like we get repeat orders on quicker because people weren't you come in and here's a wall of $1,000 instruments. Here's a wall of $100 instruments. Like okay, 1 to 300. Everybody wanted, for their kids and stuff like that. We had some of the bigger players of the area that would come in and want to get the nice telly, the nice top of the line epi or
like Fender exclusives and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there were some beautiful ones, but I've always been a function guy. If it does the job, it doesn't need to be $3,000. It doesn't need to be $2,000. Like I've got a bass I paid $40 for. It's my only bass.
Yeah, and honestly, like I can work with a 2x4 if it had strings. Is what I tell people. Like it doesn't bother me. But that's the boutique side. I would say like honestly, like with all the small pedal builders and all that, I consider them boutique because they're making one-offs, small runs, exclusives. Yeah,
that's more where I get into the boutique stuff because I've never. Other than the fact that like my Strat's probably worth $1,000 or $1,200. The telly's probably worth $1,200. Like, but those are big brand manufacturers. They're not the little guy. I've never had a guitar that has been made by somebody. I do have a neck that my friend Steve made on a body I found, but I'm having some problems working out gremlins in the electronics. So yeah, I've never had anything boutique for guitars. I'm trying to think. No, never had boutique amps either. Being the Mark IV was what, like 90s Mesa, so that's maybe the closest because at least they were still making them in house and they had completely blown up because of new metal.
I still think Mesa's boutique in a way, even though they're owned by Gibson. I think that was so they can get that name and brand recognition. Like they had their brand recognition already. Just because of Metallica, man. But what really sold me on them was like bands like Chevelle. And obviously, like, Limp Bizkit and Korn, but, because that was kind of our high school days.
Right.
But everybody wanted that amp, and I saw it in every music video. And then when I saw, like, Marcos with POD, he played a PRS with a Mesa, and I'm like, nope, that's my setup. I don't even have to try to guess it. And that's what I strived after. I ended up with, like, Jacksons and Schecters, though, because I couldn't afford a PRS. But honestly, everybody was like, man, this sounds great. I said, dude, that's all the amp. I didn't even have pedals. All I had was a wah pedal and the switch that came with it. And I'm like, literally, it's what you put through the amp is what matters at that time. And then I started playing with like delays and everything, and that started my whole tone journey. But now since I play kind of like in a jam band, we're just kind of a happy fun time band. I got to do all the low gain settings, so that's where I really had to start listening to more blues, learning how to play blues. I tell you what, coming from the metal world to blues, that made a man out of you because you had to be able to play the note clean, and you had to be able to play it with sustain without having a lot of gain to really compensate for you. So that really stretched my abilities, and that's why I worked that way.
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of grew up with metal and grunge and alternative because that's what's on the radio at the time, and pretty much learned how to play the guitar. Having my ear to the radio, and that turned me into a big karaoke machine now today. So
Yeah.
yeah,
See, now that's funny because where I started, I mean, we started sounds like around the same era. I was playing the Green Day, Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Blink-182, all that stuff, Offspring. But then, gosh, it was in the middle of high school sometime. There was a local new metal band that had lost their guitar player because like some internal drama stuff. And they had a show in 2 weeks and said, who could learn our songs in 2 weeks? And I was friends with a few of them, and they were like, let's just get John over here. So they brought me in, and I was there playing like Cold Chamber Slipknot style of metal. And I never listened to Slipknot really. Like, people had them on, but I never owned anything until somebody gave me a record of theirs recently. They were getting rid of their old record collection, and that just happened to be in there. I listened to a little bit of Korn, the first 3 albums, and the first 2 albums of Limp Bizkit, which the first one is still the better.
yeah,
It's kind of funny because like you go from things like Counterfeit and Stalemate to the Nookie, and it's just like, okay, like I guess I see
you didn't keep rolling.
What was it? That was the third album, wasn't it?
That was third
Starfish?
album. Yeah, Chocolate Starfish, dude. Like, everybody went nuts on that album. Like, when I went to school. Well, that and System of a Down and Slipknot. Slipknot came out with their pretty much their second album. Yeah, all that time was like 2001 to 2002. But you probably been rolling out of school by then.
2001 is when I graduated high school. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm 02, so dang, can you believe that's 20 years ago? Like.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We had our reunion last summer.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I've yet to have mine yet, but your main influences. I think you've already known most of my main influences, but man, you really have an ear for Chicago talent. I've named bands like Chevelle, but Stabbing Westward that came from Chicago, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're from Chicago. I've seen them, hung out with them. Chevelle is actually the cousins of one of my friends.
No way.
We went down and saw them in Indianapolis and ended up hanging out after the show. There's a band. If you like Silver Sun Pickups,
yeah,
there's a band from Chicago that doesn't exist anymore called Kill Hannah. I started following them in '97 when they were still pretty much a baby band. They were my second concert ever. First concert at the Metro in Chicago, which is a wonderful venue. We think I love Veruca Salt. Those girls can rock really hard.
Yeah, you can't fight the Seether, right?
Right. Do you remember the band Caviar?
It sounds familiar. Yes, about same era.
Same era. Early 2000s. They were on the Charlie's Angels soundtrack with the song Tangerine Speedo.
Yeah, that's about it sound for me.
What you were thinking, yeah. It's nice because they're great musicians, but they don't take themselves too seriously. Like they do things like write songs about the dude in the Tangerine Speedo. So another band, and I'm sure because this band gets around, so you probably know them, is Local H.
Oh yes, you high five and bound to the floor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys. I mean, they're still going at it.
Yeah, after all these years, I mean, they still pull out gigs, and they still got a following too. But I
know it's only 2 dudes, and I think they're on their 3rd drummer now.
Yeah, I put them in the same class with like Clutch and Oleander and that kind of thing. Silverchair.
Yeah.
That kind of alt, I call them more alt rock than anything. They weren't really grunge in a way. They really had that buzz rock kind of thing going down when everybody else was going just for the Seattle sound.
Right. And that's funny that you mentioned Silverchair, because they were my favorite band from 95 to about 2015. And at that point I started saying, you know what? I should probably be calling the Grateful Dead my favorite band, because like I'm listening to so much more of them. But I still love my Silverchair. I put them as my second favorite now. But the thing that I love about them is, as we were growing, they were growing. So each album changed. The first one was kind of grunge influenced, and Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, stuff like that. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's Nirvana in pajamas," because Daniel was long blonde haired kid, and it's like, no, they don't sound anything like Nirvana. But then their second album, they ended up going a little more hardcore, and then started experimenting a little bit. The third album got, I want to say, more Zeppelin-y, where they started bringing in the orchestration a little bit and doing that. But then by their fourth album, dude, it's a masterpiece. They went off the wall. They had dudes come in and compose. One guy is Van Dyke Parks, who has worked with the Beach Boys. He wrote Good Vibrations, amongst a bunch of other stuff. And then Larry, I think Moback, who worked with like Elvis and Frank Sinatra and stuff, did some other orchestration stuff. But then they reinvented themselves again for their fifth album, and that was like,
that's a maturing thing.
I say the fifth album was kind of like David Bowie and T-Rex. If I've seen interviews with them where they compare it to Midnight Oil. I see the so yeah, I love those guys. But my wife have the most appealing voice, no, but everything he writes is from the heart.
Dude, I'm lagging hard on my side.
Let me think, who else is there?
Yeah.
I like Jeff Buckley. Jeff Buckley wrote great tunes, and unfortunately, he only had one album before the Mississippi River took him. D'Angelo, the R&B singer D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Love that guy. Love the band Jellyfish. They were early '90s. I kind of call them like the queen of the early '90s.
And didn't you have like a punk era and all that you listen to?
Oh yeah, I'm still a punker.
Yeah.
So let's see, the Riverdales, which is where my 27 tattoo comes from, which they're related to Screeching Weasel in Chicago. But I love the Descendants. Let's see other stuff. The Cramps, Stooges. If we go into the pre-punk, and New York Dolls, of course. Green Day, Lagwagon, all the mid to late '90s stuff.
Well, more specifically, you turned me on to Skafish, who I never even heard of until like 3 months ago. 3 months ago, yeah. That stuff is off the wall, man.
The funny thing about that is, I had never heard of them either. And one of my friends just happens to know their drummer, their previous drummer, Larry Meislovic. And he's like, "Hey, I got to get you in touch with my friend Larry. He used to play with Iggy Pop." And I was like, "Oh, he used to play with Iggy Pop? That's so cool." So then I started looking this guy up, and I'm like, "Oh, he was in Chicago's first punk band." And then I started listening, and I'm like, "Okay, some of this is punk. Some of this is like pre-new wave." So yeah, it's off the wall, and I'm sure there's certain songs that he wrote that I guess
you don't listen with the kids, right?
He was trying to be a shocker. I don't have kids. I'm lucky.
I know, but I'm saying, like, you blasting that in the Walmart parking lot,
Oh yeah, That's something I would have done if I was a teenager still. But you know, gosh, I'm such an old fogey. Like my friends hated it. When
you ain't telling me nothing, dude. Like CCR is like one of my favorite bands of all time because like we wore out so many albums and cassettes of theirs.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because even going back to my mid-20s, my friends were all like, we're driving to the mall or driving to the beach because I'm 10 minutes from Lake Michigan. Is why are we listening to talk radio? And I'm like, because I like it. And now it's changed from talk radio to podcast. So like,
yeah, you remember? Oh god, Pineapple Express.
Yes.
And Seth Rogen's character was listening to talk radio. Oh my gosh. He was like, oh man, what are you listening to? Oh, the talk radio. And then they fell asleep in the car and the battery dies. And he gets so mad at him. He's like, oh no, the talk radio? Like he got mad at it even more because it killed the battery.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Oh gosh. Yeah, I was that dude. But now it's cool because it's called podcast. It's not WGN anymore.
Yeah, I always thought of like Howard Stern and the radio shows I grew up with. That was talk radio. They had to get the morning laughs out of the way, and then you got back, to the less talk, more rock.
Have you heard of Man Cow?
I have not. I have to add that to the list, or you're gonna have to add that to the Pantaloons playlist.
Well, no, Man Cow he's like the Howard Stern of Chicago. So like he had Man Cow's Morning Madhouse when I was in high school, middle school. So everybody was like, oh, hey, did you hear what happened on Man Cow this morning? Freak and Turd went out and did this. Because that was like his co-host name's Freak and Turd. So, they loved that stuff. But then they didn't understand why I was listening to, other WGN stuff. And what happened there was I'm a Cubs fan.
Yeah, Cubbies, dude. Like, because my wife's a Cubs fan too.
Yeah, so I would listen to the games, and then after the game, I wouldn't switch the channel, and then I started hearing stuff, and then that's where I found Tommy Emmanuel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a late night show that they don't have anymore because they retired, but it was Steve and Johnny. They were a husband and wife, and Steve is a guitar player, so he had on people like Tommy Emmanuel, Doyle Dykes, and great players. They were good friends with Les Paul, so before Les Paul died, like once a month after his shows at the Iridium Club, he'd come on and do a segment with them. So
man, that had to be like a shred fest.
It was pretty it's pretty awesome. And I wouldn't have got that if I didn't start listening to the talk radio. So
it paid off.
Yeah, and when I'm not in the car, if I'm at home, I'm spinning records or playing stuff on the Spotify. Every month I do a new to me playlist where I find a new song every day, and it doesn't have to be a new band. It doesn't even have to be a new song. It's just new to me. I've gone back and found stuff from the 60s that I'd never heard before, and it's like, okay, this is on there. So
yeah, and I was listening to the 40 Watt podcast with Philip Carter, and he had Kirk Fletcher on there, and they were talking about just in the blues genre, there's artists you've never even heard of, and there's so many coming out and making albums, and you never know about them. So unless people are like sharing their stuff, it's really hard to get the word out for these bands and everything. So discoveries, I hate to say that streaming services really aren't giving us the time of day on this stuff, but honestly, that word of mouth really helps a lot. Dude, I would have never heard of Green Jelly if my friends didn't say, hey, you got to try this cassette tape. And it was a copy because you never seen like a real copy. Everybody kept copying it so much. They were like, you got to listen to this band. You got to listen to this band. And here I am listening to Three Little Pigs. And it ended up being like Green Jelly. And I didn't know that for a while. It's all because of word of mouth,
Oh yeah, that's funny. My cousin had the Serial Killer soundtrack. So he had an original. So he'd listen to that all the time in the car. And my parents, when it came out to, I'd start singing that song about the monkey.
Yeah.
And they're like, where did you hear this? And I'm like, it's funny, there's a monkey. And they're like, we need to go talk to your cousin. So,
dude, I had that album in 333, because the Adventures of Crap Man should have ruined it for all parents. You know, you instantly got in trouble for that album. But yeah, Green Jelly, man, that was middle school, does they call it now? But that was grade school for me.
Well, let me think. That first album came out in like '93, so yeah, I would have been third, fourth grade.
Yeah, and then Weezer. Like I remember singing this stuff on the bus. You know.
Oh, see, now I had a funny situation because living in Chicago until I moved to high school, I never rode a bus. Like from first to third grade, I went to a school that was 2 blocks away from home, so I walked.
Oh yeah.
And then my parents moved me into a Catholic school in the next neighborhood over, and my dad drove us every day. So I never took a bus until I moved into high school, and then within a month or so of being in high school, I stopped taking the bus because I only live a mile from the school. A lot of my friends were in this next neighborhood over, so I could walk to the end of my street, jump a fence through somebody's yard, and then I'm with my buddies, and we would just walk to school because they were so close that the bus wouldn't come for them.
Yeah, I live in a rural area, so like everybody kind of hitched a ride or carpool. So like my first 2 cars were like Camaros, so everybody wanted to ride with me, obviously.
Right.
And that was the only way I thought I was popular, is because I had T-tops and you can hang out of them.
Yeah.
And here I am blasting like Master of Puppets out of that car.
You got the people in the back seat with their knees in their chin.
Yeah, and especially if the T-tops are down, they had to go somewhere. So like that was tough. But those back seats were rough, man. I tell you, high school days, because I didn't even have a CD player. Like you only had cassette players, and to get a CD player was like a nightmare to find one aftermarket or something, or even used. So we always go to the pawn shops and everything, try to see if we can find car radios.
Okay.
So my first love of electronics is really car radios more than it was the guitar gear. But I remember having some 6x9 Jensens and blaring them as loud as I can get them to go, man, and tweeters and all that stuff. Yeah.
See, I never got into the modifying car audio. My first car was a '93 Crown Vic Police Interceptor.
5.0, man.
Well, it's hilarious because my dad bought it because my dad's a retired Cook County sheriff, and at one point he didn't have a work vehicle, so he bought this Interceptor and he put like white lights in there instead of red, and there was a police scanner and a CB radio inside of it. So now I've got a car that is a good sized car, goes 120 miles an hour, and it only had a tape deck. And I wasn't into the modifying, and our pawn shops didn't sell car audio. They all still don't, because I think it's partially because just how easy it's stolen. Like they'd rather not deal with having to do all that jazz. But I did the old the CD Discman with the
with the cassette adapter.
With the cassette adapter, and yeah, that's how I'd listen to CDs.
If you hit it a bump, like, or anything, that would have the anti-skip and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the anti-skip, because that never really worked.
Nah, and I had a Walkman, and then like with the Walkman adapter, because it had the auto rewind, and my car tape adapter didn't have the switch sides. You always had to like manually flip it. I would actually use the cassette adapter on my Walkman, because the Walkman was like a more of a hi-fi cassette player than the one I had in my car. So I always thought that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's funny what we dealt with, and now kids are like, I'm just gonna Bluetooth.
Yeah, can I get the aux cable? And I'm like, aux cable? I got Bluetooth. Like I'm downplaying them now for that.
Yeah. Oh, see, I had to get a let's see, what's it been? 6-8 months now. My car had the transmission go out. I had Bluetooth in that car.
That was the Subaru?
The Subaru that I had, yeah. And it was a 2013 Impreza. Love that car. The wife had bought it brand new when we were still dating.
long story short, you had it paid off for
Well,
about a year, and the transmission took a
the
dump on you.
transmission blew out. So when we got the new car, she took over the new car. Everybody, you can hear this on one of the episodes of You Do You podcast.
You do you, yes.
The thing is I took over her Honda, and the Honda's a 2010, so it's pre-Bluetooth in the car. So we got one of those cigarette plug adapters that is a Bluetooth.
Yeah, to the radio station.
It sends it to FM. So that's how I'm running the Bluetooth in my car right now. It's kind of janky, but hey, it does the job.
Hey, I got the same thing, and I'm listening to your podcast and everybody else through that, so it works, man.
Yeah, and exactly. That's how I'm listening to my podcast. Because depending on. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying. I think we talked about your influences. I think I left off the last thing, but I'll let you finish your story here. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was just gonna say, like, depending where I'm working, because I work out of 3 different locations, I could be either 25, 30, or 45 minutes from home. So, plenty of time to listen to the podcasts.
Oh, absolutely. And dude, I appreciate you like jumping on here today, like, and even listening to all the Signal Pass stuff, and even the Texas State Boggle Champ stuff too. Because, like, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all of our guests and our members, and you're on my daily list too. So you guys see my shenanigans every single day. But
and you know what? If you don't support the things that your friends do, why should anybody be supporting you? That's the way I look at
it's that whole give and take thing. I mean, I think we all throw our hat in the ring and just have at it, man. And always try to be a good help and encouragement to everybody that's trying to do recording and generate content, because I mean that does take time out of your day to do. I know we're not making a living doing all this, to be honest. if you're not in the know of that, but
no, I spend. Let me think, because I mean the equipment I've had, that's something that's not a big deal because I've got it because of playing guitar. But other than the camera, which I ended up having to buy, but that was like down $20. But each month I'm paying hosting fees. I'm paying fees for. Actually, I need to quit this one because I stopped using Pro Tools. I'm still paying Pro Tools $10 a month to use Pro Tools. Occasionally I'll have an episode that I want to promote. And Facebook's like, hey, give us $20 and we'll put it out there to 3,000 people. Okay, well here's another $20 that I've just spent. So it's all out of pocket, but I do it because it's fun and it gives me something to do.
Yeah, it's for the love of the game, really. And anytime you post something, you can post it here on the Signal Path. You're free to do that. That's why the whole page is here. I literally spilt my whole heart out to you on your episode on Staging a Podcast. That's kind of why I did it. And a lot of us guys we were just tired of all the people like roast my board, and you get all these hate comments from people and all that. And I'm like, that's not that's kind of counterproductive. That would not really help me out in my tone journey, because I don't know what would work in a mix if I have somebody like, oh, you shouldn't plug in this, and I'm like, okay, but you play in your bedroom. I'm trying to cut through cymbals here, like on the stage, so
right,
like,
I need some more mids.
Yeah, and I need people that have been there, and shared the wealth. And then you get these guys that are just so pretentious. They're like, no, that's like a trade secret. I'll never tell them, what I'm plugging in. And John Mayer's out there using a tube screamer. Everybody's like, ooh, like everybody has a tube screamer. Like it can't be that special.
Well, yeah, but then they find out there's the TS10, and then that price goes through the roof.
Yeah, the whole price gouging thing. So
I think oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I think it's hilarious that everybody hasn't really found a way to do like a Banksy or something and kind of blow up that market the other way, where, take it back down to, I'm surprised the Dano food pedals aren't like $200 and $300 now, just out of the nostalgia. Yeah.
I mean, the holy grail, the horsey man, like seeing what people are wanting to charge for clowns is ridiculous. You know what? I've got one that, like, I love my Tumnus. Sure. I like my which other ones do I have that are clowns? I forget. I've got like 2 or 3 different ones, but I've got one that was by Moore or something that I spent $30 on. Sounds great. I don't need to spend $5 grand on a pedal because it's mythical.
Well, I mean the component values don't vary a whole lot if they're measured correctly and they're manufactured to handle noise floor, all the hiss and hum and that kind of thing that happens in the background. But a $30 pedal, dude, I could throw it against the wall, plug it in, play the gig, and not cry about it.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those mini pedals, so it's got that tiny footprint. So on my Pedal Train Pro board, I can fit 100 of those things.
Yeah, what is this? A pedal board for ants? Thanks, Joe, for that reference. Golly.
I know I was showing you, and we've talked about influences. We've talked about guitars, amps, some of the pedals that I've got. But one thing I want to say, because I know we're getting close to the end here, right?
Yeah, we're getting there. I didn't want to take up your whole day.
No, it's okay. I've got nothing going on. The food's in the crock pot and she's asleep. So
that sounds like a country song.
You're right. It make $1 million. I don't need nothing. So anyways, one thing that I talked to you about afterwards, after we recorded your episode on my show, was I have 3 separate boards. So I've got one board that currently on it is only drive pedals. It goes from, your light overdrives to way out fuzz. Got some, I know you pointed out the full tone GT500 that I got on there.
Yeah.
Love that thing. Plug that in and play The Darkness, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. It sounds great.
Yeah.
But then I've got my main board, which, goes over. I've got a booster. I've got a Mutron. 1, 2, 3, 4 different drives. I go from the Nobles into a Dude, into an Archer. Hey, there's another one of my clown styles.
Yeah.
Into the Slice of Pie. And then it moves up into the Terraform, the delay that we were talking about earlier, and a Keeley reverb. But then, because that's all stuff for fun and playing here at home.
Yeah, and that's what I call my experiment board, or something to that effect. Yeah. And I have a couple of pedals that are just experimental. I mean, it's hard to put in a song context, but dude, I'll have a blast just playing at the house, just me being a goober on the guitar, making scratch noises and trying to get things to oscillate and fight each other in the signal and everything.
I've got a Pigtronics synth pedal that I like.
Oh, the Mothership?
The Mothership, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a Mothership. It hasn't been out of the box. I've owned it for 2 months. Like, it's just sitting there waiting for me to feel like going.
You got to plug that in, but I'm going to tell you, don't plug it in something you want to keep as an amp because it's not quite a speaker blower, but if you're really kind of getting into it and throwing those lows into it,
I'll plug it into my bass amp. Good idea.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Meat Box does that. The DoD Meat Box. Yeah, they call that the speaker blower.
Actually, before I talk about my third pedal board, which is the actual functional board, for going out and playing, is speaker blower that Digitech Space Station that I had into the Dual Showman, and I had the matching 215 cab with that.
Oh wow!
The sub octaves on the Space Station blew one of the 15s.
Oh geez.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But as for my third board, which I say is my functional board, is because I don't play out really. I play one show a year that's a benefit show for the neighborhood I used to go to school in. And I play with Steve from my other podcast in Lakeland Guitars, just doing acoustic. So it's, let's see, I've got a preamp, a compressor, delay, chorus, a phaser, a Hall of Fame reverb, and then the looper. So,
Dude, that works. Yeah.
Yeah. And, not everything is actually. Would you consider Pigtronics boutique, or do you consider them to be one of the regular peoples?
I would throw them in with guys like George Trips and the Way Huge and that
Okay.
level.
Yeah.
They're
Like kind of
mid
the
tier,
medium.
Wampler,
Yeah.
Wampler, that kind of era. And to me, they're kind of old school boutique. They weren't big pedal companies at the
Mhm.
time, which I'm not sure if they're. I mean, but they're distributed pretty well now, so I would kind of throw them into the standard mid level, into the high tier
Okay,
of that
because
area.
the only thing I have on that board that I'd probably put in their area, is it's the Pigtronics Bob Weir preamp.
Oh yeah.
Everything else is TC, Boss, Behringer, TC, and more.
Hey, you can't beat that, man. That sounds like a solid setup to me.
Yeah.
Dude, you're talking to somebody that rocks a 505 Zoom 505. So
Yeah.
I'm not a pretentious player, is what I tell people. But yeah, man. Like really appreciate you having you on, sharing all your goodies. Sharing some stories and some laughs, man. This has been fun. But I'm gonna give you some space here to plug away at anything. If you got some new things in the mix or your channels, and just have at it. Plug away.
Sure. So I've got the Staging a Podcast. That's my first podcast. I started it with the intention of talking to just people in the music industry, and so far I have been able to keep it that way, because I consider you somebody in the music industry since you have a music page. But I've talked to songwriters, people who've toured the world, pedal makers, content creators on that. It's awesome. You can go to let's see, pretty much all of your major streaming sources, Apple, Google, Amazon, Stitcher. I've got Staging a Podcast on there. There's also a Staging a Podcast Instagram page and a Facebook page. Then there's my second one, which is actually the first podcast that I started. We just never posted anything. Is the You Do You podcast with my best friend Steve. We just talk about whatever we decide to pop up that day. This week's episode, which is finally correct because I accidentally shared the wrong audio, is just about organization in life and work and in your mental state. So that one is on most of the other streaming services as well. It's a little bit harder to find. You can go to the Instagram page, which is You Do You Podcast 1. I don't know where the other one is because I can't find the other You Do You podcast existing anywhere, but You Do You Podcast 1 on Instagram, and from there you can find the link tree and get to episodes however that way.
Yeah, those are fun, man. You can hear about your daily life, and you and Steve really have a good chatter going on there.
Yeah, well, when you know somebody for like really the majority of their life, and it makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah, like you say, warts and all, right?
For the most part, I have been on staging. I've been doing warts and all. I have been doing editing on that recently. Trying to get some of the nastiness out. Like on your episode, there's a part where it goes from us talking to me saying, "Wait, that was loud," and I think you hit your microphone or something.
Yeah, that's part of the show, man.
So I ended up deleting out the loud peaking sound of hitting the microphone. So I do small edits here and there now. But yeah, that's fun stuff. I'm starting to work on some new music. Did I send you my track?
Yes, and it's very ambient.
Yes, yeah. I like to think of it as something you can listen to, like if you were in a massage parlor, spa, like a nice calm place, like they put it up against
You know, it's
Like,
funny. I was
hanging
sitting
out.
in Planet Fitness in the massage chair when you sent me that. So I was actually already relaxing, and it was just that much more relaxing, actually.
That's fun. So yeah, I've done one song. I haven't released it other than just sending it out to some friends. So I'm planning on doing some more, and then maybe after that I can get a distro kit or something to send it out on Spotify and all
Dude,
that.
that's nice. Dude,
Yeah.
guys, John is being very humble. He's had some amazing guests on his show. He's had Blake from Tone Mob and just, some high profile guys. I think you even had the drummer for Skyfish on there.
Yeah, the drummer
Yeah.
from Skatefish, that's
Yeah.
Larry Meislovic.
Yeah.
He's still playing in local bands around here. He's got a regular full time job that he's getting ready to retire from, hopefully at the end of the year. But yeah, he's just playing in local bar bands, playing covers, and it's like I think
That's
it's funny
incredible.
because I'm there watching him, and I'm like, I know that this dude played with Chicago's first punk band, and I know this dude backed Iggy Pop for a couple of years, and nobody else here knows it.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then he's had some humble folks like Joe and I and Doug Christ from the Just Surprise Me podcast realm. That's how I got into podcasting, was those guys. So, we appreciate you there, John, for all your efforts and fun and shenanigans.
I think I kind of want to get him again is Tim Tim Rodner from the band Alistair.
Oh yeah,
because he was my first guest, and I had never tried podcasting with anybody else before except for Steve, because we've been recording for a year now, and just started releasing. So like, even though I've known Tim for, I don't know, 15, probably close to 20 years now, I was just uncomfortable. And if you listen to episode 1, you can hear it in my voice.
The
It's
new
funny.
beginnings. Yeah, and everybody has those humble beginnings. I mean, if you scroll to the very bottom of my YouTube, you can see they're like, oh wow, this is. You can hear all the background noise and all, which still happens today for me. But I kind of just wing it and run with it, man. So that's what I was always trying to be encouraging for you. It's like, just do it, man. Get it on recording, and you grow and learn as you go. Especially the editing tools. I mean, that takes a while to learn. And honestly, man, it's just been fun, and been generating content with you over the last couple of days between your podcast and this one. So appreciate you being on here, man. Is there anything else?
No, that's all I had to plug, man. So thanks for having me again, or for having me this time.
Yeah. Thanks for coming over to my house and playing GI Joes this time, right?
Right. Oh, you know what? Speaking of GI Joes, they're putting the original movie back out in the theater for a couple days, next month.
Oh wow! Like the one with the Rock in it, or
no, the cartoon GI Joe from 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a 35th anniversary and showing it again. So
nice. So the more you know.
The more you know. Yeah, watch out for it.
Yeah. So and no one's half the battle. GI Joe. Cool, man. I appreciate your shenanigans as always. So really thank you for letting me jump on your cast and you jump on mine. So that's we're just tag teaming these now.
Well, the next guy here say shenanigans is gonna get pistol whipped.
Hey Farva, what's that place you like with all the goofy crap on the walls? Oh, shenanigans. Oh, I love that, man. But yeah, we're just chock full of those random movie and TV quotes, right?
Oh
so yeah, that's a Texas size 10-4, good buddy.
All right, and that's what I appreciate about you.
Yeah, is that what you really appreciate about me?
Yeah, you're kind of jealous of the beard.
Yeah, you just got to pull on it, man. That's what I tell everybody.
Well, work won't let me take it over 3/4.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your emergency services, yeah. So imagine somebody going insano and grabbing it.
Well, luckily I'm just a paramedic now and not a firefighter anymore, because I used to have to stay clean shaven.
Oh so, yeah. So Tacoma FD too.
Yes. Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, I do too. That's your Broken Lizard boys there. Super Troopers and all that.
Oh yeah.
Cool, man. Enjoyed this chat so much, but I think I think we're almost an hour and a half in this, but this is great. So appreciate having you on, and we're gonna end that here. All right, John, I appreciate your time today, and thanks for everybody listening to the TSP podcast. You guys have a great day. Bye now.